What's up, YouTube? Welcome to another episode of KM Videos, dying stories, right? For those that's new, I really mean true stories. But I did that last story on my brother. I mentioned my father, my uncle, and I said there would be a trilogy to where I'll do a part 2 and part 3. So this part is about my Uncle George.
Gotta be down and you can't be a hoe, no. Gotta be down and you can't be a hoe, no. Gotta be down and you can't be a hoe, no. Gotta be down and you can't be a hoe, no. Cased up.
That was it. I never stopped banging. I started banging hard, then I got so hard till it was a shame.
Welcome to another episode of KM Videos, true stories. Now, George grew up with my mother, who was 1 year under him, and their mother. They moved from New York to Stockton, California, when my mother was 7 years old, so that's 1948. And they grew up poor. They grew up eating rice, beans, and potatoes all the time. And my uncle got tired of eating beans, rice, and potatoes. So he decided he was going to save his money so he could eat whatever he wanted and buy whatever he wanted. So he started putting his pennies, his nickels, dimes, and quarters in jars, saving up his money. Eventually, he went to the Marines. Then my mom's had moved to L.A. My uncle moved, he followed her to L.A. He moved to Inglewood. Well, he had several different places, over on Orange Drive in Washington, spot in Inglewood with 2 different properties. Then he moved to View Park and then down the street in View Park. So he was always close to us. Unc used to take me to Los Angeles Library, all these different track events, Santa Monica, Mount Sac, all these different places, man, San Luis Obispo and stuff like that I mentioned in the last video. I was about 7 years old, 1975, 1976, more like 75. So I was 7 to 8 years old. I was about 7 years old. Unc used to scoop me up, man. I enjoyed it. I think probably about 6th grade, so probably about 79. Probably about 79, Unc stopped really picking me up, taking me places and stuff like that. But during that time is when he bought me this camera for me to take pictures of him. Not just of him, but take pictures. And that's how my hobby really began, with taking and collecting family pictures and stuff like that. But I would go to these track meets and take pictures. And they wouldn't always come out because I was a kid and I was a beginner. So some pictures you might see my finger in front of the lens. I might just get his chest. You know what I'm saying? And I developed this love for photos before the videos, you know what I mean? And so, I had good times with Unc, though, you know what I'm saying? I had good times with Unc. And being a kid, I didn't know no better. Didn't care back then, don't care now. But he would meet these women. Not meet them, but meet them. Like, hey, I'm going here. And so I would see all these different women. Never knew what was going on, never understood it. I just knew as a kid, Unc had all these nice cars and all these different lady friends. I don't know about girlfriends, but lady friends. Unc was kind of like Pops. Kind of like myself a little bit. They was cold freaks, man. They didn't have a problem getting women. I mean, I had a problem getting women, but I done had some bad women. Hey, that ain't got nothing to do with the story, but Unc had all these different women, man. Unc was a cold freak, and I didn't realize it until I got older. I really, really, really didn't realize it until after Unc passed. Unc was cold with it, man. Unc was cold with it. So now I see. He didn't mention to me, but now I see why he had regretted getting married sometime after he got married. And he was able to have rental property and I guess his pension or whatever you call that from the Marines. So Unc did well for himself. After USC, he became a parole officer. So he was still doing well for himself. And he developed this mentality, this anti-criminal mentality, specifically gang members, because he worked with a whole lot of gang members from like the Firestone area. He dealt with a lot of Bloods and Crips. And he had a problem with gang members, not so much because of the violence and criminal activity, but because they would lie so much. And like me, or me like him, we despise people that can't stop lying, people that just lie over and over for no reason. Of course, parolees are going to lie for a reason. They want to stay on the street. They want to stay free. So they're going to lie. So Unc had a problem with that. So that kind of shaped his mentality to where my mother's kids, one of my sisters, all three of the sons, my niece, and whoever else had went to prison, right? So, or jail, because my sister never went to prison. So he developed this mentality where he sort of had this thing against us. Despise is too harsh of a word, but you know, he had his biases against us at times. He loved us. He loved my mama. He loved her kids. But, you know, right is right, wrong is wrong to him. Sort of. Not really. So I remember when I was a kid, I was real young. I don't know how young I was, but I was real young. And my uncle was looking for this parolee who was on the run for a hot one. Well, this dude had a car parked in downtown LA somewhere. And in that car was money and dope. I'm trying to live the right way, but everybody wants to get ahead in life. So he called up my father. My father wasn't really a criminal like that. He was a scary nigga, but, you know, it's money and dope involved back then. So he tell Pops, man, it's this car, at this address, go get it. By the time Pops get there, you know, the police is already all in the car and stuff. So, you know, they didn't come up on that. I remember, y'all know this story, my uncle ended up shooting my brother-in-law. And he got off on that case. My uncle followed Moms to LA because Moms had this boyfriend used to put hands on her, and my uncle wanted to kill the dude. He was gonna kill this dude. He just never ran across him. He never found him. So that never happened. So that's the type of uncle I had that just thought he was living life the right way, but he was down. He was low-key gangster, you know what I'm saying? He didn't act gangster. He didn't dress like a gangster, talk like a gangster, but his actions was gangster. For real, excuse the term. He was hood. He was a straight hustler when it came down to it. So, now fast forward. My brother ends up striking out. My brother strikes out, 94, 95, he strikes out. He went back in 94, so in 95 he was sentenced. Matter of fact, yeah, we was in the county jail together. So he was sentenced and found guilty in 95. So later on, when I get out, after I had to go do my little parole thing as well, so in the 2000s, my uncle was saying how he could help get my brother out. Like, he didn't have no pull to just get him out, but the parole thing, when my brother goes up for parole, he could put in good words and use his past employment and reputation to get my brother out immediately. You know, and he was hoping maybe like a year or two before he go up for parole, once they, put him in the system as coming up for parole. So Unc always procrastinated. I would go over my uncle's house, and he would have these letters for my brother. He never submitted them. He never talked to nobody about it. Just us, family, and maybe his friends. So you know how life goes, procrastination, what you put off, don't put off what you could do today for tomorrow. And so it just never transpired. My brother hadn't went up for parole yet. So now we have an auntie, which not blood, but she's a McNack from Northern California. She was my mom, one of my mom's best friends. Like Q's got all these best friends and shit. So she was living in Frisco. She moved all over, but she was living in Frisco. And she had came to Las Vegas. And while she was in Las Vegas, she got sick and she got diagnosed with brain cancer. And they had only gave her 6 months to live. They said there was nothing they could do for her. So while she was in the hospital in Vegas, my uncle went to visit her and I went to visit her. So we went together to visit my aunt, Vivian. And so, it was a lot of old conversation. Like Vivian took it like a Trojan. She like, all right, I'm out of here, you know what I mean? And so we were preparing for her death, and we was trying to console her and stuff. But she kept it hood. She was cool with whatever was gonna happen with her, and I believe she made it past 6 months. But so my uncle, being a miser, being a cheapskate, when I was growing up, he wouldn't really buy us no Christmas gifts. He would go to the after Christmas and get the red tag sales and stuff like that. Everything cheap that my uncle bought. Until in later years, he started buying a lot of Nike because he liked to run, he liked to jog, and so he wanted shoes that felt good on his feet, plus kind of be in style, right? Being a cheapskate that he was, he wanted to ride back to LA with me instead of on the plane. Save him $100, $90 to $100. And so I was cool with it because growing up and even into my adulthood, I never had that man-to-man conversation with him. I always looked at him as, an authority in the family, like a person that was well respected in the family. So I never crossed that line, never had no arguments with him, never disrespected him, never done any of that to his face. So now, the coming of age, here I am, I'm a grown man and all this. And so he gets in the car with me and we ride back to LA. And I actually drove slow because the conversations were so good and he would want to stop and piss, grab a bite to eat. And so we drove about 4.5 hours. Good conversation, man. I'm talking about great man-to-man conversations where he schooled me about some family things. And the point of this video is he started pouring his heart out to me. He started apologizing for things once I confronted him about how he treated us and how I felt like he looked down on us. He said he never felt that way. He never thought like that. And I said, well, you thought we was thugs. You wouldn't come visit us. You would always have an excuse of why you didn't want to see my brother. You was worried about people you work with might see you. You was worried about the prison, might do something with your name and it come back to haunt you and all that. I said, you never came to see none of us. Never wrote us, never sent us no money, no store, no nothing. And he was like, yeah, I feel bad about that, you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, man, you may not have noticed it, but you look down on us, man, and you wasn't all of that. I just hit him with the you wasn't all of that. And he was like shocked. Like you could tell this big, bravado, brave individual, you could tell he was kind of like slumped down, like a little bit of air came up out of him. And I felt like I had this advantage over him through conversation. And I know he's getting old. I know he's getting elderly, so I won't be able to have these conversations with him if I put him off. And it's all love, though. Like, I'm giving him a ride home. It's all love. And so I tell him, like, man, look, you were trying to kill my mother's boyfriend. You shot my brother-in-law. You tried to get my father to go get some cocaine, some weed, and some money. And, you know, a private situation in the family that happened. Not no molestation type shit, nothing like that, but an incident. And he was like, you right. Like, he didn't fight it. He was like, you right. And I'm like, man, why though? Why? And he said, man, I never felt nothing. I was just trying to live my life and be successful. And then I ended up getting married, and so I had to spend time with my wife, and my wife would tell me things that I need to do. And I felt like she was my wife, that she's gonna get all these things from me when I pass. And I wanted to honor my wife. So he was telling me about her failed business, and he put all his savings and sold his properties to keep her business going. Her business continued to be a failure. So it never worked out. So he lost all this money he had saved up. They had owed a lot of money to the IRS. They put a lien on his house. His house was worth damn near $1 million, but like half of that they owed to the IRS. So he was telling me how he regret that. Like, that's probably the only thing in his life that he regrets, and that was his downfall. He said he loved his wife and everything, but she was a little too tight on him and was very convincing about a successful business that never panned out. And he didn't really know about a lot of these IRS things that she had going on until they put the liens on the house. So, he poured his heart out to me and everything. And I drop him off at home, and I tell him, I'm going to come see you. I'm going to come see you in a couple days. But in them couple days, Unc goes to the hospital because he's feeling a pain in the side. And I talked to him. He said, yeah, I got this little pain in my side. I'll be home tomorrow or the next day. They finna do a little surgery on me, a lightweight surgery on me. And I'll be home. He said it won't leave no scar or nothing. They got this new technology. I'll be all right. So boom, I get a phone call that my uncle passed. I'm like, what? Like, my uncle passed. So again, this has happened to me several times in my life. I expressed to my aunt, it's all good, man. It's all love. And I'm glad I got the conversation off my chest and got answers from him, got closure from him, and family history, family stories from him before he passed. But just like that, he passed. And the crazy part, my aunt with brain cancer, she was still living, and she came to the funeral. She came to my uncle's funeral. So we talked a lot too. She gave me some history on the family too. History with her and my uncle and my mom and stuff like that. So that was bomb, man. That was fire, man. So always talk to your loved ones, man. You never know when they're going to go. And you have the knowledge to carry on, to pass on down to the family and to your siblings and stuff like that, your kids. So always have those conversations when you can. Because you should really have them. You should really have them. And I feel like people should really be checked. I feel like before people leave this earth, they should be able to look in the mirror and see not just the rights, but the wrongs. Just so they can have a well-balanced thought of themselves. And they can get right with God. They can get right with whoever it is that they look up to, a higher being or their ancestors. Or just to be truthful with themselves. And I hate that Unc died like that. I hate that he perished so soon. But we got them things off our chest, man, and got some great understanding. That's it for this story, man. I hope you enjoyed it. Y'all have a good day, man. Be sure to click that like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Don't be afraid to leave a comment. As someone once said to me, a lot of people can resonate with these stories and have similar stories. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.